and head into the arena. My panel is here: CNN contributor, host of the New York Times The Interview, Lulu Garcia-Navarro; CNN political commentator Jonah Goldberg; former White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield; and former Speaker Pro Tem Patrick McHenry. We are also joined by CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Elliot Williams. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Jonah, I want to read from your new piece in a second, but Congressman McHenry, I want to start with you just because you have served at the highest echelons of the Congress, which was attacked on January 6th. And this is just a piece of the group of people. This is just one subset of people that could benefit from this fund that President Trump has set up to benefit his allies. But, is it right?
Oh, of course not. No, but I'm an outlier. I'm sitting on your set here. I'm not in Congress. I hold a different stance than many of my party. I voted accept to electoral count on January 6th. I was on a very different side of the pictures you just showed on TV. So my stance and view has long been different and is unchanged. It was unchanged.
But there were a lot of colleagues who were with you on that day or in the immediate aftermath who then, even Speaker Kevin McCarthy changed his tune.
These two things.
Right?
Let's separate these two things. One is this group of folks on January 6th that the president said he was going to pardon in the election, got elected, and then pardoned them as a full class of people. Fairly unprecedented, a massive statement, something I didn't support, but he actively campaigned on it and fulfilled. Point one. Point two, there is a victims slush fund at the Department of Justice that is long-standing. We've given administrations too much power in handing these things out, and this administration is using it in fulfillment of its political agenda. That can be cleaned up and should be cleaned up. So I want to separate the two things. The weaponization of government, though, it is now almost orthodoxy within the Republican Party that the government was utilized to target Republicans out of power. First in the Obama administration, and then second in the Biden administration. Some of that is true. If you look at Jack Smith getting members of Congress cell phone records, that was clearly overly broad targeting. But much of it is not true, but has become part of just what is in the water in terms of politics. So this is absolutely troublesome and not going to be easily resolved, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Hill because Leader Schumer's already said we'll have this as a vote on vote-a-rama. So you're going to have senators, particularly senators that are not so happy right now, having to opine on something that they do not broadly support.
Yeah. You can even see it already this is a vulnerable member of the House of Representatives, Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, who was pressed on this fund. This is what he had to say today. Watch.
We got to unpack exactly what it is, what the source of the funding is, in order to stop it and or reverse it. Right?
So you want to stop it?
Oh, 100%.
Congressman, just to stick with you for a second, the president is now personally basically threatening Fitzpatrick with primary challenge. Is there any way Republicans hold that seat if they get rid of him? How is this not in anybody's interest if you're a Republican trying to, pass things, do policy in Washington?
The first term. This is the 4 years in between. It's since the president came down the escalator. This is just part and parcel of how Trump operationalizes his power within the Republican Party, purely. But what I would say is this: you still have members of the party like Brian Fitzpatrick who will state what they believe and will stand up for it regardless of the consequences. And they make up the difference between having a majority and a minority in the House and a majority and minority in the Senate. This really matters for the final 2 years of President Trump's administration, whether or not he has pure adversaries on Capitol Hill or a majority with some complicated people that do hold people to account. And I think this is quite consequential for the last 2 years of President Trump's term.
Yeah, fair enough. Elliot Williams, before we dig further into the politics here, can you just sort of explain to us the legality or lack thereof? What is allowing them to do this? Can Congress stop it? What is your view of that?
Right. It's really a question not for me, Kasie, but for Congress. Because of the fact that there are certainly, and I think Patrick had alluded to this a little bit, there are victims' compensation funds that exist. For instance, the big one being the 9/11 Victims' Compensation Fund for people who were harmed on that day. There's a pot of money. People can establish how they are harmed, right? But that's established by Congress. The Crime Victim Fund, the most common one that the Justice Department uses, was established by by Congress. This here was not. And it's certainly, and this is frankly one of the arguments raised in the Capitol Police Officer's lawsuit, is that it just wasn't established by Congress. It was in effect by fiat that the Justice Department created this $1.776 billion fund. So that's the big question here. What actually created the authority for this fund, number one? And number two, the very thing underlying the fund, weaponization and lawfare, these two terms don't actually exist in the law. They're not defined. And so ultimately, administering payments to people based on this nebulous concept that doesn't actually exist in the law. It's a political term, but not a legal one. So hashing that out is certainly something that can happen in the courts, but really Congress is the body that ought to be looking into whether and how such a fund would be operated.
Gotcha. So Jonah Goldberg, I mean, you wrote this in your new piece today that, quote, it may in fact be legal for the president to be the judge in his own cause and create a taxpayer-financed slush fund for him to reward cronies and henchmen on a whim. But I struggle to think of a hypothetical scenarios that would be more likely to arouse in Madison and his contemporaries the now misplaced reassurance that impeachment was an available remedy. It seems like you're basically saying, well, it may be legal and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, so no offense to many of my colleagues, including Elliot, who's a dear friend, legal punditry about impeachment has done this country a massive disservice over the last 30 years. The Founding Fathers in no way thought that you had to, I understand the term high crimes and misdemeanors. They in no way thought that impeachment was solely reserved for illegality. The thing I was referring to in the column was that Madison was asked at the ratifying convention in Virginia, what would you do if a president encouraged essentially henchmen or loyalists to commit crimes in his name, promising that he'll pardon them afterwards? And Madison's like, that's a no-brainer. You'd impeach and remove him from office. Well, Trump encouraged these people, whether it's legal incitement is another issue. He encouraged these people to do what they did at the Capitol, and then he pardoned all of them. And now he actually wants to cut checks to them. I don't know what the actual formula is going to be, but if there are basically 1,600 people who were prosecuted, that comes out to this fund of $1.1 million apiece. Now, it's not going to go that way, but that's appalling.
It really underscores how much money there actually is.
And we haven't even touched on, there are two things here we haven't even touched on yet. I mean, one, this is a settlement in a case that Donald Trump brought against the Trump administration IRS. So this is effectively Trump and Trump's personal legal interests settling this case against the Trump IRS, taking what is taxpayer money. I mean, this is $1.8 billion worth of taxpayer money and moving it into a fund that he can then control for personal purposes. So so many elements of this are, to me, are just impossible for a Brian Fitzpatrick, who has, in my opinion, said the right thing, but to go back to his constituents in a swing district and say, this is a president I can support. This is a good stewardship of our tax dollars in the United States government. The other piece of this we haven't discussed yet is the audit immunity that Trump has instituted as part of this settlement for himself, his businesses, and his family. So moving forward, he has barred, essentially, the government from auditing any of his taxes. And there are elements of that are obviously incredibly troubling. And so, it is yet again, I mean, I feel like we sit here and say this over and over, but, yet again, Donald Trump using the office of the president to further his own political interests, to further his own financial interests, and basically making no bones about it.
Lulu, I mean, it is something that is in some ways under-discussed. The Trump family will leave Trump's second term so much wealthier than when they came in.
Yeah. This is a government of graft. It is a government of corruption. There are now multiple investigations into potential leaks from the government about key decisions that Trump might have made to do with oil futures and Iran. I mean, everywhere you look, under every rock, someone is cashing in. And the majority of those people cashing in are connected to Donald Trump. And I do wonder at what point people will start to call this what I think most academics and researchers who look at this would say, and that this is a corrupt authoritarian government that is self-dealing. And at a certain point, you know, it just becomes so egregious that, you know, one has to look at it and say, how does he believe that he can do this, that his government can do this, and there not be any repercussions for it? Because it is completely shameless at this point. There is no legal there's no legal framework for any of this. I just want to remind you that actually that initial thing that kicked all this off, that $10 billion that he was suing his own IRS for, that was not made public by anyone. That was investigated by the New York Times. And that's how that came out into the public domain. That was being hidden from the public. So, you know, this is not only actions that are being taken to take away taxpayer money and use it for the self-interest of the president, it is being hidden from the American people.
All right, we clearly, we're going to have a lot to deal with in the coming weeks and months. Elliot Williams, thank you, my friend. Always great to have you. The rest of our panel is going to stand by. Coming up next here.